Can cops volunteer to fight a small-time criminal without arresting them? What? Like, can the cop say, if you can beat me in a fight, I will scrap your speeding ticket, and the driver agrees? That's not against the law, right? Fun idea. No, we would never do that. Guys, we're back to it. I am an active duty police sergeant, and I am here today answering your questions. So let's get into it. Have you responded to a spooky call? Any ghosts caught on body cam? That's a big negative for ghosts caught on film. Unfortunately, I have responded to a spooky call. Not a lot of them. One that really sticks out is an elderly woman called and she claimed that there was somebody on a roof line and she thinks they'd gotten into her attic through the attic window, which was very strange. Never been to this house before. This woman wasn't on our radar. No reason not to believe her. We go there. She's convinced she's seen this person upstairs. It's an Asian male. They have long hair in front of their eyes and they're now hiding in her bathroom. The movie The Grudge is out. This is in our minds when we're going up there and we're thinking, what is going on? This seems bizarre. She seems totally fine otherwise. And unfortunately for her, this was just the beginning of her kind of sundown problems. She ended up having dementia, and this was the first time it ever got on the radar. So obviously there was not an Asian male hiding in her bathroom, although we treated it as though there could be. And we contacted the family and she was taken care of from there. But that's kind of the closest thing I've gotten to like a spooky call. Okay, next question. I'm from England and wondered what you thought about our police being mainly unarmed. Most don't even have tasers. Great question. And I have spoken with British cops about this before. And I think it's a huge cultural difference. Like the way you're raised in America and the way you're raised in England when it comes to guns is so much different. There's like a ton of guns here. There's a lot of gun culture. They're common. We're used to them. A lot of people like to go shooting. A lot of people kind of attach guns to our First Amendment right and to keep government at bay and to ward off tyranny, all that stuff. Regardless of what you think of that, that's kind of in our culture. We're a gun culture. For English people, it seems like it's not that big a deal. They're used to it. From conversations I've had with people from England, they kind of seem unnecessary or kind of wonder why we're so attached to guns. So to us, it seems very odd to wear a badge and not have a gun, not have the ability to protect yourself in a life and death situation if you need to. But to you guys, it's really not a big deal. So yeah, we do think it's kind of crazy, but I do understand that it's just kind of normal there.
Aha! Right through me! Prepare for returned fire, Sir Joseph Broadfront! Never!
I will say that British cops are, from what I've seen and the ones I've met, are very tough, and my hat goes off to them for doing their job. We're doing it over here with guns. They're unarmed. I mean, of course, they have different tactics. They might tackle things with more people. And I don't know about the taser thing, because I've seen a lot of videos online with British cops tasering the hell out of people, like shooting someone like 10 times with a taser. So maybe not all of them have them, but it seems like they're becoming more widespread, which is nice. And I also know that the British and Irish police both have special response units that are armed in case guns are needed. So there's that. This question does make me think. I've got a lot of comments about possibly reviewing British body cam, police body cam, or maybe even doing a collab with a British cop. I'm open to both. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll see if we can get that done. All right, next question. This comes from Charity Bloom 4049. Sergeant Steve, if you come to a gated community where a call for help had been placed, how do you guys get in? Well, the communities I've worked in that have gated communities, we have a code. We usually have a code or a key to get into those communities. Now, if you show up and you don't have a code, all efforts would be made through dispatch and the officers on scene to try to get a hold of a resident to let you in. If that's not possible, I suppose you would just break down the gate. If it's an emergency, there's exigent circumstances and you have to get in, life is at risk, we just break down the gate. Next question. This comes from Bama Mama 2020. Has anyone tried to bribe you? Not directly. I have on motor vehicle stops before where someone's going really fast, had their wallet out and a bunch of 20s kind of sticking out of their wallet next to their license. No words were said, but it was kind of implied, like, I have a bunch of money. You just ignore it. It's obviously highly unethical to take a bribe and wrong. And also, you know, if you were willing to do that, is it really worth a police pension? You know, a couple $100? That's a big negative. All right, next question. This comes from Brave Hearticus. How much does a cop earn as a starting salary? That's a highly variable question in the United States. In the Northeast, like literally anywhere from 55, 60 to like $100,000. There's all kinds of education incentives, training incentives, experience incentives, and it depends on the size of the department. Typically, larger towns and cities have a bigger budget. They can pay more. Of course, you're going to be busier. Smaller places, they will pay less, but they'll give you perks like maybe a take-home car, flexible hours, weekends off, stuff like that. So they kind of, all the towns and cities try to work with what they got, but the salary range is hard to nail down because of that. And then you go out to the West Coast, and it's totally different. The salaries out there do seem to be much higher from what I've seen, even up to like $50,000 hiring bonuses, because we're having trouble employing cops right now nationally. So I hope that answers your question. There's no really definitive answer. All right, next question. This is from True Crime Junkie 12. What was the first call that you ever went on that scared the daylights out of you? Oh, let me think. Well, I think it was a man down call, and I was very new in my 20s. And I actually had just purchased my supper from this bar manager who I'd gotten to know from working there for the time I was there, which wasn't that long. And he was down and he was dead when I showed up. And there was a kitchen staff member kind of just impishly trying to figure out how to do CPR on him, you know, eyes open, mouth open. I just spoken with this guy and now he's just dead on the floor. It really affected me to the core, scared me. I had not done anything like that yet. Like I'd been to calls where people were dead, but like not just like freshly down like this. And, you know, I helped EMTs and everybody come up, and I'll never forget after that call, my sergeant was like, are you okay? Are you shaking up at all? And I go, yeah, I'm okay. You know, just kind of playing it off. And he's like, cause you look kind of green. And I thought he meant like I'm green, like I'm new. And he was like, no, like your skin, the color of your skin is kind of green. And I was like, yeah, it definitely kind of bothered me. So that was the first call that really kind of spooked me and had me have that kind of big adrenaline dump. And then afterwards that kind of come down and I was definitely looking a little off. All right, next question. This is from Godfrey Jason J. Hindsight is 2020. What is the dumbest mistake you've made on the job? We all have at least one story. Well, I do recall a time when we had a newer chief, and this new chief kind of made it part of one of the new things he was doing was to get digital cameras in each one of the cruisers, which was really cool for evidence. And digital cameras at the time were like pretty expensive. This was, I don't know, 16, 17 years ago. And so like almost immediately I had a crash on the highway. I used the camera to document the crash and the injuries. And then I left the camera on top of my car, and one way or another, it ended up getting ran over. So brand new camera, new chief, and these things meant a lot to him. And I almost immediately destroyed it because I forgot it on the roof of my car. So that was pretty dumb. All right, next question. Can cops search your car if they smell marijuana? Well, where I work, no, because marijuana is legal in certain amounts. So the odor of it doesn't necessarily, or doesn't actually at all, trigger your ability to search the car. Now, states where marijuana is still illegal, they're probably good to go, but where I work, it's a no-go. All right, next question. This is from Maz Delaney. Have you ever found any of your own body cam videos online, and would you use it in a vid if you did? This is a question I get a lot, and the answer, unfortunately, is no. I would definitely not comment on my own body cam videos. My department wouldn't like it. We have some policies about social media and being identified in uniform and mentioning the department I work for. So I really couldn't do it. Maybe when I retire, it's something like I could do. It could be fun to do. I know a lot of people want to see it. So possibly down the road, but as of right now, negative. All right, next question. This comes from Melissa Karina. What do your employees and colleagues think about your YouTube channel? Well, I don't have any employees. I'm just a supervisor, but I do have people under me. Mostly positive. People seem to really like it. At least that's what they tell me to my face. I don't know if I'm being made fun of behind the scenes or ragged on. Probably because it is a bunch of cops. But no, it's been mostly positive. People are actually pretty amazed when they see how many subscribers there are. And when they check it out, I do hear back that they really dig it. I actually just ran into a firefighter the other day and they were like, I didn't realize you had this giant YouTube channel. So it's definitely out there and it's coming up in people's feeds and they're seeing me and they're going, hey, that's Steve. I know him. And then they reach out and they seem like they like it. All right, next question. Miss Taylor 90. Very stupid question, but how do cops take lunch breaks? In movies, when cops are eating, they always get a radio call and dramatically rush out of the restaurant. Is this accurate? Unfortunately, yes. I don't eat at restaurants that much when I'm working. Once in a while, I'll go sit down and meet another cop for a meal, but usually I'm just at the station, brown bagging it. And yeah, I've kind of just heated up soup or supper or whatever else before and just about to eat it or got one bite in. And then the emergency call comes in and you just gotta go. And hopefully when you come back, it's something that's able to be reheated once again, or otherwise you just toss it in the garbage. But yeah, it does happen. And yes, you do have to abandon your food and go to the call. All right, next question. This is from Andy Dufresne. How is it decided who gets what vehicle? Like, why does one officer drive a Charger, another drives a Durango, and another drives a pickup? Is it seniority thing, an availability thing? Does it change if your assignment changes? A lot of questions in there. So from what I've experienced, and I'm not an expert in this at all, but from what I've experienced for the places I've worked is like at roll call, shift change, it's decided. And yes, seniority plays a role. If there's a newer cruiser or a cruiser that has more bells and whistles, usually the senior man or woman on the shift would get to choose that one. Also, specialties do come into play. Like if you're doing the beach, or if you're an officer / you're also doing animal calls, you might take the pickup. You know, it varies widely, but that's basically how it goes. Like for me, I have a take-home car, so that's my car, which is pretty awesome. I don't have to deal with the whole cruiser shuffle or seniority or picking a vehicle. So basically that's how it goes down. It varies widely everywhere, but that's what I've seen. Okay, next question from Kaylin Brown 69. What is your story? What made you want to become a cop? Pretty simple, pretty boring. My dad was a cop for like 32 years. I always thought it was cool. I have a really good relationship with my dad. He's a great man, still is a great man. Big part of why I am the man I am today is because of my father. Love him dearly. And, you know, just sitting there, dinners, he would come home in uniform. I always loved that. I probably asked to see his gun like every time he came home, and maybe like once every 30 times he'd take me in the other room, unload it, and let me see his gun. And also, like when we were around town or out doing errands with my dad, I did see a bunch of times people randomly come up to him and thank him for some difficult situation, or tell him like, thank goodness he was there. And that had a big impact on me. Being like a police officer or a local cop to me was like a very attainable thing you could do that made a huge impact on people's lives. And that really appealed to me. So that's, in a nutshell, that's the answer. All right, next question. This is Travis Killian 276. Have you ever felt sincerely bad for someone committing a crime for whatever reason and decided to not pursue charges? Yeah, absolutely. I've done that before. I've had people come in for an interrogation. I've had them confess and then kind of help them get some help rather than go the jail route. So for that to happen, though, in this case especially, the victim had to be on board, and also the DA had to be on board. And I was able to coordinate through the DA and the Department of Mental Health in our state and kind of get them on the right track and suspend the charges as long as they followed the program. So yes, I have kind of facilitated that before, and you know, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, but I like to give somebody a shot whenever I can to make things right if it's the right circumstance, if that makes sense. All right, next question. This is from Bowen McGowan 6233. What's the most convincing lie someone told you during a traffic stop that worked or almost worked? Well, I've actually had a lot of convincing liars on traffic stops. One thing people do, the most frequent believable lie, just the way they're so confident when they say it, is you'll ask them, I always ask, like, have you been pulled over recently, or do you have a lot of traffic violations in your past? Because I'll be able to see that, because our you can usually see back about 30 years of traffic history, and you'll have people look right at you and go, no, I'm good. Like I'm good. Nothing recent at all. Nothing I can remember. And then you go back to the cruiser and it was like 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago, and they got pulled over for speeding, or they got cited for a crash or leaving the scene or whatever. And that always kind of amazed me that like gave them all the information. They knew I had the ability to check and still just bold-faced lie, super confident. And I would walk back to my cruiser going, wow, it's going to be surprising if they have something. And then a bunch of times in my career, they have had substantial things that happened like really recently. So to me, that's the most frequent one that I see a lot. Okay, next question. This is from Books in Disney. Do/when body cams get shown in court, does the judge ever point out how rude/mean that person was acting? I don't know. I've never seen a judge do that. I'm sure it's happened because judges just say whatever they want, it seems like, in some clips I've seen. But like a lot of body cam footage doesn't make it to court, because if body cam is given to both prosecutors and defense, and there's like really definitive evidence that they're guilty, then it never goes to court. They just either take a plea or they, get a guilty for it. All right, next question. This is from Indigo Blue 77. Have you ever let someone go and regretted it? Yes, I've done that. The most recent thing I can think of is letting someone who's drunk in public go. And to be fair, where I work, public intox is not a crime. You can just put them in protective custody and then they're held until they're sober and released with no charges. But I have in the past come in contact with somebody who was like very drunk, and I let them go with a party that was going to be responsible for them, but then that party just kind of lets them carry on their way. Like they promised they're going to take care of them, and then they don't, and then that person is across town raising hell, doing something else, and you end up ultimately taking them into custody. So yes, that has happened to me before. All right, next question. Hi, Sarge. What fictional TV/movie police precinct would you like to be a part of? This comes from Robert Splay. Great question. Man, well, one of my all-time favorite police movies is Hot Fuzz. I absolutely love it, but I did recently rewatch it, and it is incredibly violent and crazy, so I don't know. I don't know if I want to live all those things they did in that movie in real life, but it seemed like fun. Maybe Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Seems like they're having a good time, laughing all the time. Things usually work out. Everybody's funny. Yeah, maybe Brooklyn Nine-Nine would be the safest bet.
It was number 5. Number 5 killed my brother.
Oh my God, I forgot about that part.
What is the most ridiculous excuse you've ever heard from someone committing a crime? This is from Mary_Beth_R. Well, one that pops right into my head is while I was on shift, my shift partner stopped a guy who was in the middle of the night, was pushing a broken down four-wheeler down the road. When I showed up, we started speaking with him. I knew him because we'd arrested him before. He had a big criminal history, and his excuse for having this four-wheeler, which was not his, was that he knew it was broken and he was going to do these people a favor, bring it to his house, fix it, and then bring it back, which we both knew right away was not the case at all. And I also know for a fact that this kid did not have the mental capacity or the skills to fix the four-wheeler anyways. So that was pretty ridiculous. Why don't you ever tell people they're getting arrested until after they are placed in cuffs? This is from Banana Hammock 369. Heck of a name, sir.
It's ma'am.
I do. I mean, it depends on the situation. Usually I'll tell them, put your hands behind the back, you're under arrest. As I'm cuffing them, I tell them why they're being arrested. Now, if they're going to be a problem or they've already been a problem and you think telling them at the time or at that exact moment is going to cause further outburst, you might kind of withhold it till you have them under control. But I don't see a problem with, and often do tell them why they're being arrested. All right, next question. How often do unarrests occur? What circumstances permit or allow an unarrest? This is from Kyle Giannis 5068. Unarrests, the way I was trained in an academy, they taught us that unarrests, where I work anyways, the state I work in, are highly unfavorable, and they don't want you to do them at all because it just, you've taken custody of somebody, but you didn't really have the right to, it turns out. So you got to really make sure you got the probable cause to arrest and don't release somebody. It can just get really sticky, especially when you start talking lawsuits and you've taken, you've forcefully taking somebody against their will, but it wasn't a good arrest. Was it kidnapping? I don't know. Let the courts figure it out. It's not good. The only situation I can really think about where it does happen is if you get somebody for driving drunk, or you think they're drunk, or they're off, something's going on. Say they're diabetic, so they kind of almost smell like alcohol and they're acting strange. You don't realize it, and you bring them back and they blow goose eggs, we call it, the 00 on the breathalyzer. You're supposed to release them forthwith from the arrest for DUI because clearly they don't have alcohol in their system. So that's really the only thing I can really think of for kind of a formal unarresting of somebody. So I hope that answers your question. Why don't police use the NATO phonetic alphabet while spelling out words to dispatch, especially with many former military officers who go into civilian law enforcement? We do. In my area anyways, I've always been trained to use phonetic alphabet. It's kind of been, let's say, bastardized by the police. So like, instead of saying like Lima, some cops say Lincoln for an L, or for like Bravo for B, some cops say Baker. So it's kind of been, other little words have made their way in there, but I was trained to use the phonetic alphabet when calling in plates and license numbers and stuff over the radio. So we do use that quite a bit. Otherwise, it would be really difficult to kind of decipher letters that sound alike over the radio. So I don't know where you've heard that or seen cops not doing that, but it is still widely used. Thank you for the question, Papa Mike Juliet 85. Have you ever laughed involuntarily at something a suspect did or said? This is from Jeremy 5602. Absolutely. Many, many times. Just, I can remember laughing, especially people in the back who are drunk. In recent history, I went to a DUI crash. I stuck my head in the side door of the ambulance to check on the operator. He was on the phone. As soon as he saw me, he told his mom, who he's on the phone with, "Hold on, Mom. A ginger cop is here and he's about to F me." And he put the phone down, and he wasn't wrong. I was about to charge him, and it was hilarious. I kind of just put my head back outside, laughed a little bit to myself, and then entered the ambulance to interview him. But yeah, that was pretty hilarious. And cops do have a good sense of humor, even when you're bagging on us. Okay, next question. Have you ever arrested a sovereign citizen? This comes from TD Water Law 93. No, I have not. People I've been on shift with before have. I've stopped them before, but personally, I've never arrested one. Keep in mind, YouTube shows you the most sensational things. They show a lot of sovereign citizen videos. It's not super common to run into them, and it's not super common to run into them. If you do run into them, then have to arrest them. A lot of times they can be talked into cooperating begrudgingly and then go on their merry way. When responding to a call, why do cops always park so far away from the incident/door of the shopping center/driveway? This is from Claire Rose Killy 8392. Well, it's a tactical thing. So for domestics, they tell us when we respond to those, kill the lights and siren before you get close to the house so they don't hear it coming, and then try to park kind of out of sight and make your way in that way so you don't heighten the situation that's going on. And even for not domestics, kind of parking away so you can assess what's going on in the situation before your presence is known. Is this tactically sound to do? So that's usually why we're doing it. All right, next question. Why don't cops carry a window punch on their uniform, or at the very least in their vehicles? Well, a lot of us do carry that, actually. It's not standard issue in a lot of places, like a lot of things aren't. You kind of just buy it on your own and keep it on you. I think most cops think like, well, I have a billy club. I have, I have a metal flashlight. I have things I could use to bust a window. And until you've been in that situation and see how challenging it can be to bust a window, you might not carry one. But yes, a lot of cops do carry them. I don't know that they're widely issued. They're not issued where I work or the surrounding agencies that I work with. When a suspect is being really rude, disrespectful, and out of control, then demands handcuffs be loosened, do you have to loosen them? This is from Miss Robbie IV. Must be a nurse or something. Thank you for the question. No, you don't have to. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to loosen them if they're whining about it and being a huge problem. We usually do. We usually try to work with them. Believe it or not, we're trying to make things go as smoothly as possible because we're going to have to deal with this person like for the next few hours. So they're not just going to be in the back of the car. They're going to be in the booking room. You're going to have some kind of rapport with them so you can get them the heck out of there and not have to deal with them anymore. So we do kind of bend over backwards to make people comfortable. But in short, no, you don't have to. Keep in mind also, we do check for spacing, and we also do double lock the cuffs so they can't get any tighter. So they should be fine unless they were put on in a big hurry And then, yeah, they'd have to be adjusted. How often do officers have to rein in their partners or other officers off camera because they lose their cool or use excessive force? This is from TSEZWIK. Not often. I've not seen it a bunch in my career at all, but it does happen. I mean, tensions run high. People can be incredibly difficult and violent to deal with. And, you know, sometimes cops get pissed off, but I've not really seen an incident where a cop needed to be held back. I do see, and we've seen before in the channel, cops kind of regulating themselves. There'll be some chatter like, you know, we got them, calm down. All right, let's just bring it down a little bit. We do a really good job at that at the scene. Maybe somebody who's not directly involved standing behind will kind of just give some verbal direction or some words just to bring things down. And that's usually enough. All right, next question. When people push their luck and demand EMS and then send them away or demand to go to the hospital and are cleared, who pays for the ambulance or the hospital visit? This is from Claire Rosekilly 8392. Once again, well, it really depends. If EMS just comes to the scene and then leaves, there's no charge. Our tax dollars pay for that. They're just already on duty. They come out and then they leave. Now, if you take an ambulance ride, someone's got to pay for that. And it's the person who gets the ambulance ride is billed for the ambulance. So hopefully they have insurance. Otherwise, they'll have to figure it out with the hospital. But yeah, the person who took the ride is getting billed for the ride. Do police departments actually have quotas, or is that a thing of the past? That's from Amanda_Renee. No, not that I know of. Where I work, quotas are illegal. You can't put a quota on enforcement actions. They can ask you for they could say we'd like you to have so many activities during the day, like, you know, running radar or booking a crash or stuff like that. Some things you can't control, some things you can. You can pull calls for certain things yourself. But no, quotas are not legal and they are not done. Where did you start at first? How long was your field training? Did you get bullied a bit in the first year? How much of your job as an officer in the first couple years was paperwork? All right, that's a lot of questions. They come from Mr. No One. I first started on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and the field training didn't have a super solid field training program at the time. It was more just like riding with a senior officer for a while and then like getting your own car and being on shift with senior people. So I can't give you a definitive answer because it wasn't really a set period of time. It was kind of like when they thought you were getting it, they kind of cut you loose and kept an eye on you type of thing. Did I get bullied? No, not really. I mean, there's some like gentle and fun hazing that goes on with new guys, you know, but nothing of it was really super cruel or mean or like made me want to quit. It was more like, I remember one time I went into the bathroom and I left my gun belt in front of my locker and I came out and my gun was completely taken apart, like the barrel, the recoil spring, the guide rod, the slide, the frame, like anything you could take apart was taken apart and was put in a row on the bench, and I had to get out and put my gun back together. I chuckled and I knew it was hazing, but you know, it was funny. And I think if people are doing things like that to you, they know you can take a joke and like you. So wasn't that big a deal. The other part is how much was the paperwork in the first couple of years? About the normal amount, the amount I have now. You know, police work has a lot of paperwork, a lot of reports, incident reports, crash reports, a lot of paperwork. It's not as easy breezy as like these 70s coppers had it. It's a lot of crossing T's and dotting I's now. I'm curious whether becoming a famous YouTuber has affected your career in either a negative or positive way. For example, have you been recognized during an investigation and or arrest? And if so, what happened? This is from Still Learning 8360. No, I've not been recognized during like a traffic stop or an arrest or investigation. I did get recognized at a local convenience store. It's kind of cool. Girl came up and was like, "Hey, you don't have a YouTube channel, do you? Are you Sergeant Steve?" I was like, "It's me." So that was like the one time. It was pretty cool. But yeah, I'm not getting recognized really. So luckily, I actually don't know how that would impact where I work. Like if people were just constantly like trying to run into me or it started to become an issue, it might be a problem for me, but so far so good. No issues, just that one person who recognized me so far. So let's hope it stays that way. I know this is a Q&A, but wonder if you could do a video on Australian body cams. Love to know what you think about how they do things down here. Thanks and stay safe. This is from Lot Soul 4. Love to. I actually don't know if I've ever seen an Australian police body cam in the wild before. I guess they're a thing if you're mentioning it, but yeah, if there's some good ones, I would definitely comment. I would love to comment on some overseas agencies in the future. Okay, next question. Has anyone ever actually passed a field sobriety test? This is from Processa. Yeah, it's happened to me. I've had people come out of the car, do field sobriety, and let them go. So it definitely does happen. I mean, you're not going to see it on YouTube because it's not very exciting or fun to watch, but yeah, it does happen. How frustrating is it to have someone assault you and or just be horrible humans and go to court to have everything dropped? Why do they do this? This is from Mandolin 410. Yeah, it's frustrating, but myself and most cops kind of look at it like we take care of things on the street level. We take care of the public. We keep the peace, and whatever happens in court happens in court. They usually don't take very lightly assault and battery on a police officer if it's like a serious assault, like a real punch or kick, like something substantial. The problem is a lot of cops will charge with assault and battery on a police officer for like a push off or a shove or somebody kind of like maybe something that should have been more resisting arrest than assault and battery police officer. So like the serious assault and batteries on police officer don't get dropped that easily. But again, we take care of things on the street level, get that cleaned up, get the person where they need to go, and just try not to worry about the outcome, because as long as we did our due diligence, we wrote a good report, whatever happens with the DA and the defense attorneys, we have no control over it. So why worry? All right, these next ones are from Instagram. So head over to Instagram and give us a follow. The link is in the notes. When you have a stubborn client that won't get out of their car or into yours, why don't cops use a handful of hair to steer them in the right direction? Animal trainers know that if you control the head, you control the animal. Just saying. This comes from ECoopsG-SQ3YM. I don't know. I mean, we can use reasonable force for what's going on. So I suppose you could. That's good to go. You could grab somebody's hair to pull them out, but it's got to be reasonable. So I've never been trained to do that. And I've never seen anybody in like real life use someone's hair. But I think if it was like a drastic enough situation and could be deemed reasonable, you could pull them out by their hair. But yeah, it's just not really like taught or trained or suggested, but I think it could work in the right circumstance. Why do you pick a job that hurts normal people to perpetuate the power of gangs? Parentheses, called governments. This is from Abstract Approach. Well, I don't belong to a gang that I know of by any definition, and pick the job to serve the community and keep the peace. So it is kind of a calling. It takes kind of a special person to do the job because it is wears on you, wears on your family, long hours, not great pay, etc., etc. So I don't really understand the question. I would be curious if you've ever served the community or done anything for other people as your employment and how that worked out for you, or if you're just spouting off on the internet trying to get under my skin. Either way, it's not going to work. Next question. Is it illegal to put battery acid in a water gun? P.S. The container is coated in Flex Seal so the acid won't rip through the mag. Hypothetically, of course. This is from Ducky Jame. And our next question is, hey Steve, what is your go-to meal while you're on duty? This is from Fish Falls at Midnight on Instagram. Unfortunately, I love pizza. Almost any kind of pizza. I love it. There's a couple of good pizza spots that are in my striking distance. So, I mean, if I could have a go-to and it had no impact on my health or my weight, it would be pizza like every time probably. But usually I just brown bag it. I just take a sandwich, something easy. I don't like bringing things into work that you have to heat up. I do sometimes, but because of the whole I got to call and have to leave my food thing, and then it gets, cooled down and you have to reheat, that type of thing. It's kind of gross. So I usually just try to do a sandwich or something that I don't have to heat up and can just eat kind of quickly, bunch of snacks, things like that. All right, got some questions from Facebook here. Follow us over on Facebook as well, please. Thank you. This is from Lisa. Why don't you order them to turn off their phones or take them while doing an investigation? It's annoying. Phones are taken sometimes during investigations, especially if they're gonna be evidence. But like when you're just talking to somebody and they're like kind of fidgeting with their phone, you can kind of just ask them, not to be on their phone, but you can't really just grab and take their property from them unless you have like a good reason. So you kind of just have to try to get their attention. I agree. It is annoying and I see it way too much and I don't like it. Next Facebook question. This comes from Indigo Blue 77. What's the call that changed you the most as a person? As a whole person changed me? I can tell you a call that like really impacted me and did kind of change me, how I look at things. I went to a motor vehicle fatality. It was a rollover with a young woman. She was killed on impact. It was pretty gruesome and had to spend some time at that scene. And then later I had to go to her mom's house and tell the mother that she had passed away in the car. Now it was her mother's car. The woman owned an SUV, which she probably would have lived through this crash, but she was in a convertible. So she didn't. It was the mom's convertible. So it was pretty not well received. And when I'm telling the mom this, the victim of the crash's son, like 4-year-old son, came out of the bedroom, kind of rubbing his eyes and wondering what was going on. That I ended up sitting there with the woman for a while, like maybe hour and a half or so, I think. And that was really impactful and really, really tough to try to console somebody when there's really no consoling them. Just be present with them, be there for them, help them make phone calls and just try to get through it. But that was hard. It really makes you grateful for everything that you have and for just life in general. Thank you for joining me on this video. It was a lot of fun going through your questions and answering as many as I could. Thank you for submitting them. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below. Let me know what you think. And also hit that bell notification so you know when the latest video has dropped. And if you like police war stories, check out the Things Police See podcast, where I sit down with the men and women of law enforcement for about an hour and get their most intense, bizarre, and sometimes humorous moments from the job. Available anywhere you get podcasts, and a link to the podcast is in the notes. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.